Bow, bow, bow. What is up, YouTube? It's your boy, Flock Guy Reacts, and we back with another reaction video. You already know the vibes. We had the infographic show, and this is how much money does each generation need to be happy? You know the vibes. We about to get straight into it. Smash that like button, comment your thoughts, your opinion, your facts, whatever's on your mind. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. And turn on that post notifications to keep up with your boy. Let's get into this video.
They say money can't buy happiness, but try telling that to someone who's juggling rent hikes and $7 coffees. Everyone has a personal price tag, the real cost of contentment. On today's episode of the Infographic Show, we're looking at how much money each generation needs to be happy. For the greatest generation, those born between 1901 to 1927, or a silent generation member, born from 1928 to 1945, they have seen some harrowing times. These are the people who lived through the Great Depression. Many of them still have memories of living through extreme food shortages and unemployment levels that led to mass poverty. It was a time of scarcity that called for sacrifice from everyone. Those who grew up amid it remember scrimping and saving every item or leftover, growing their own food, and making any small luxury last. And that kind of experience leaves a mark. In the aftermath of World War II, the boys came home, and there was a massive boom in marriages and kids. The Depression was over, helped to its finish by the massive manufacturing boom caused by the war, and that led to a new era of American consumerism, where everything became cheaper and easier. American manufacturing had never been so back, and the machines that once made rifles and body armor were now cranking out household appliances. It was an age of plenty. But the scars of the Depression did not go away easily. The members of the greatest generation and the silent generation, as they got older, were highly frugal and cautious. Their children have stories about how their parents would still insist on clipping coupons or maintaining a vegetable garden, even into old age. No matter how comfortable they were financially, they always acted as if the next depression was right around the corner, and they tried their best to instill that in their kids, teaching them to be frugal, responsible, and above all grateful for the little things. And that shaped the financial view of the baby boomers. The baby boomers, born from 1946 to 1964, grew up in an era where the American dream was highly accessible. There was a boom in housing construction, so making a down payment was easy because there was a glut of available housing. This was a buyer's market, as long as you had a steady job, and those were easy to get too. The manufacturing boom made both appliances and cars more affordable than they had previously been, and provided plenty of jobs making those items. This was the era where Dad introduced you to a family friend who ran a factory or an office, you got hired with an interview and a handshake, and then stayed for 45 years before retiring.
No cap. So crazy thing is, and that's crazy thing about life, what this is telling me that the Great Depression was needed. Because after the Great Depression happened, after everything was low, feel me? And then it's gonna rise again, and we're gonna hit another one.
Hiring the same way, handshake, and fat pension included. And that led to an era of, well, shall we say, frugal comfort. When you ask people what it takes to be financially successful, each generation gives a different answer. The boomers give the lowest number on average, $100,000. This is due to a number of factors, the first being that they were taught by their parents to want less. They typically don't want luxury, they want stability, owning their own home and car, being able to support a family, ideally on one income, and a vacation in the summer. That is the American dream, and for them it was attainable. Who could ask for more? Well, the following generations, in a big way. Generation X was born from 1965 to 1980. The kids of the silent generation and some of the older baby boomers. They were too young to experience any major wars, although the lingering Cold War did shape many of their childhoods. While their youth was more unsettled than that of the baby boomers, they still grew up in an era of the American dream. But behind the scenes, there were a lot of major social factors that were brewing and shaking things up. And it was a bomb that was about to blow up in Gen X's face. While there hadn't been any economic shakeups nearly on the same level of the Great Depression, Gen X did experience two recessions that led to a major slowdown in jobs and a rise in prices. That started to make success feel a lot less inevitable, despite their parents still swimming in it. For many in this generation, it felt like the baby boomers had hacked the code to success, and they were just trying to find the ladder to join them on the A-list. And the world was changing fast around them. One of the key elements of success for the baby boomers was the security of a pension. Most of them worked in salaried jobs, and when you retired, the company paid out what you had put in all those years and then some. And that meant as long as you did your job well, You would never have to worry about making ends meet during your retirement. And that would continue for Gen X, but in a new way that did not provide the same era of security. This was the era when companies started shifting to 401ks, a stock market-based pension that typically invested your pension funds in low-risk mutual funds. The idea was that your pension would grow with the stock market, which often worked out, but not always, and that added a tense element of gambling to planning for your future, especially as Gen X was starting to feel the pressure from all sides. Gen X is often known as the sandwich generation, caught between two generations with obligations to both. The massive baby boomer population was still taking up the majority of jobs as Gen X came of age, and that, combined with rising prices, started adding some serious financial pressure to the generation. But despite this, many of Gen X went ahead and they got married, starting families of their own. The economy was still looking strong after all, and they believed the trajectory was only going up. But it didn't quite work out that way. Gen X was growing up in an era where life expectancy was going up as well. Medical treatments were getting better, especially for chronic diseases and elder care, and that meant their parents were living longer and longer. This was a source of joy, but for some it also became a challenge. Today, many Gen X members find themselves trying to juggle raising their own kids or supporting them as they launch from the nest, and meanwhile they're caring for their aging parents, making sure they're safe to live alone or ensuring that they have a secure place to live out their elder years. This extra time with loved ones can be rewarding, but also taxing. And that's had a big impact on how they see the world. If you ask the average Gen X member what it takes to be financially
Our bookstore is like a portal.
It's neo-Victorian, it's steampunk.
they'll give you a shocking number, $212,300. This is more than double what the baby boomer cohort said, and there is a simple reason for that. Gen X is chasing the most successful generation in American history, and they are coming up short. Prices are going up, supply is dwindling, and the fast-aging Gen X finds themselves worrying about security as they approach retirement age. It feels like everything is doubled, from groceries to houses, so surely the barrier for financial success will have as well. But they might be the last generation to have it so good. Millennials were born into an age of promise. This generation, born between 1981 and 1996, saw probably the most intense technological advancement of any generation. After all, almost the entire development of video games and the internet happened during—
I was born 1995, so this is me right here. That's crazy. Nah, facts. Nah, I'd say our generation really is really crazy because we experienced before like the real birth of internet and technology and stuff like that, and then we're in the like the form of real tech, like, feel me? So it's like it's either you stay traditional or you accustomed, feel me? It depends on the type of person you are.
the bounds of their generation. It seemed like every month a bold new advance was coming out in some entertainment or technology field or another, leading to many lectures from boomer parents about how their grandparents grew up in poverty. But one thing was sure, things were looking up and the future was bright. Except history had something to say about that. The experience of being a millennial was kind of like climbing a big, exciting water slide, climbing to the very top, and then finding it closed right at the top. The older millennials were just getting ready to start their adult life when 9/11 happened, throwing the economy into a recession and the world into chaos. Years of war, fear, and uncertainty followed, although the wars remained limited in scale, did not involve a draft, and didn't disrupt life nearly as much as the wars experienced by older generations. It would still take a while, but this generation would start to find its footing. And then the other shoe dropped. A massive 2008 recession caused primarily by mass sales of bad mortgages in the housing market sent the economy into a tailspin. It was the worst economic blow the country had suffered since the Great Depression, although the impact wasn't nearly as severe due to the safety measures the government had put in place. The result was over 8 million lost jobs, countless businesses, both big and small, going under.
Oh my gosh, yo, I remember that because I was young and still in school, but my brother, my pops, everybody. I remember everybody came in the all came in the kitchen and stuff, and then they all like had on their suits and stuff, getting ready to find a job and stuff. I was like, yo, son.
And many companies that survived putting hiring on hold for an extended period. Millennials found themselves facing the worst job market in generations, and that meant a failure to launch. If there is a word that defines millennials, it's probably adulting, or rather the failure to do so. The rough economy meant many millennials found themselves living at home well past college. It also meant a heavy delay for many in getting married or even having kids, with some choosing to eschew the latter altogether. After all, it was a common refrain, "I can barely take care of one human being, why would I bring another into the equation?" It seemed like the world was suddenly a hard and unforgiving place for this generation. This was the era where generational conflict became much more of a buzzword, as millennials looked at the era of their parents, most of which were boomers, and started to feel like it was unattainable for them. The buyer's market in homeowning had become replaced with a seller's market with sky-high prices and limited availability. The old approach of walking up to the boss and asking for a job seemed like a fairy tale, as every opening had dozens of people begging for it. The ladder to success felt like it had been pulled up, and hopes were dwindling. And with it, expectations were as well. Surprisingly, millennials actually have lower expectations for success than Gen X did. The average millennial says they would need approximately $181,000 per year to be successful. Still, almost double what the baby boomers said. So what's to account for the drop from Gen X's expectations? It's certainly not because everything's getting cheaper, quite the opposite. But it may be that their expectations are simply getting lower, and with it, they're willing to settle for a more modest sum that would offer them some security. Still, these two generations are fairly close in status and expectations for success. But the same can't be said for the new kids on the block. If the millennials grew up in an age of fast-evolving technology, Gen Z, born from 1997 to 2012, was immersed in it from the start. Most kids in this generation grew up with an iPad or a smartphone in their hands, watching video and playing games with a finger from the time they could sit up. That has skewed a lot of things for them, and it shapes how they see and interact with the world in just about every way. That includes money. With this generation, many of whom have already reached adulthood, being far more comfortable with digital currency than paper or plastic. Not that they have enough of it for their tastes. If there is one thing that defines Generation Z, it's chaos. Their lives have been far more unsettled than those of the millennials, despite the fact that they were still kids during the biggest upheavals of the 2000s. In many ways, the economy never fully recovered.
I feel like I'm like in the middle of millennial and Gen Z, because it's like, feel me? I'm like with this, like I'm experiencing more relations than Gen Z because I was late, feel me? And it ended at like 1996, so I'm 1995, so like a year before it ended.
Covered from the 2008 Great Recession. While the stock market certainly stabilized, the job market never quite returned to where it was before. And while millennials worried that Gen Z would explode out of college and surpass them, that really hasn't happened. And it all comes down to one nasty 5-letter word: COVID. Everyone remembers where they were when they first heard about it. The global pandemic hit everyone hard.
This is the real me, and
This is an AI
Crazy.
my character is
But Gen Z may have taken the brunt of it, having their education disrupted, whether they were kids muddling through online school or young adults missing out on prom or graduation. The result is that they face many of the same problems as millennials: a lack of jobs waiting for them when they graduate, sky-high prices for housing and cars, and the inability to launch from their parents' house. The difference is they don't really expect things to get better. Gen Z tends to be far more fatalistic than other generations. They look at the state of the world between economy, politics, and climate change and only think it's going to get worse from here. Whether that's a realistic expectation or not, it affects the way they spend their money and how they plan for the future. And a frequent refrain from their teachers is that they really just don't expect to have one. These kids are acting as if nothing exists but the now, which is causing some serious problems when they reach adulthood. Because to many of them, money doesn't quite feel real. One factor that's hit all the generations is student loan debt, which many Gen Xers and millennials are still paying off. But Gen Z has the highest average student loan debt by far, and it hasn't even managed to accrue interest yet. The group has the highest debt on average overall, and much of this is due to their online spending habits. Feeling like they're in the hole already in a world that isn't built for them, Gen Z doesn't look too closely at what its bank account looks like every time they click to make a purchase. But they know what success looks like, and it's increasingly out of reach. The average Gen Z member, when polled about what they would consider financially successful, gave a number of $587,800 annually. To put that into perspective, that is nearly 6 times what the baby boomers said they'd need, and several times higher than the actual US median household income. In other words, Gen Z's version of making it would feel like winning the lottery to their grandparents. There are many theories about why this is the case, with many people saying these kids just don't know the value of a dollar. That old chestnut. But there's another element too. For many Gen Z members, the things that define success, a home, a car, a family, are so far off that they don't even have a firm number of what it would take to attain them. And the future is uncertain in more ways than one. For Gen Z, they don't know if any of the institutions older generations rely on for support will exist by the time they're hitting retirement age. For one thing, there have been rumblings of a Social Security funding crisis for decades now, and it's easy to wonder if that money being paid into will even be there when it's time to be cashed out. That is, if there are any jobs to earn money for Social Security in the first place. Pretty much everyone's worried about the impact of AI on the job market, with countless jobs being outsourced to the robots, but the youngest members of the workforce have the most to lose if this becomes a larger trend. And so, Gen Z doesn't believe in the American dream, they just want to stay afloat. Where did this number of over $500,000 come from? Gen Z is increasingly starting from a lower number than any other generation, so it might be that their definition of financially successful doesn't actually reflect what they think a good yearly salary would be. It's what they would need to get above deck and kickstart their lives. As many of them are still hustling and trying to make ends meet with multiple gigs, it might feel more like a pipe dream than a realistic definition of what they really need. And for all of these generations, reality is a long way away. Every generation, from the boomers to Gen Z, has listed their bar for financial success at around $100,000 at least, but the actual median income for Americans is only hovering at around $75,000. US salaries have not risen with the times nearly as much as people hoped, but the cost of everything else has. That means a lot of people, even those with healthy incomes and steady jobs, find themselves having more and more trouble making ends meet on their regular incomes. And that means everyone is chasing an American dream that they might never meet. To a degree, the American dream is always about chasing something that is just out of reach. After all, is there anything more hopeful than striving for something? But after a while, it stops being about hope, and it starts feeling more like a pipe dream. As long-term goals drift further out of reach, more people start passing on milestones like owning a home or starting a family. Much like the younger generation today, the dream shifts from emotional fulfillment to material comfort, whether it's the next big game console or a small treat to survive the workday, which has many people wondering, what awaits the next generation? Gen Alpha, the oldest of which are only 12 years old, are growing up in a world that is foreign to even older Gen Zs. Their definition of money, if they even have one, is very different. Most of them have never even held cash. They have smartphones from the time that they're young, and they're used to doing everything with click and scan transactions. Many of them will be scanning QR codes before they can even read or write. Most of them are the kids of millennials who went through their own economic struggles in their youth, and in many cases are still digging out from it, which means the cycle is beginning again. No doubt this means that many Gen Alpha kids are hearing stories about the Great Recession and the COVID days from their parents, who are all too aware that they sound just like their parents. But the unifying fact about all of this is each generation is seeking something other than money. While each generation has a number that they think will bring them success, but in success, they actually mean a sense of security they're striving for. Each generation has had its own definition of success that's changed over the years. But each generation has a bet that the end of history might be upon them, and that bet never paid off. The world keeps on spinning, and no one is sure what the world will look like in another generation. But if there is one unfortunate, consistent pattern of the last few generations, it's that it'll probably be pretty expensive. Maybe happiness has never had a price tag, but every generation keeps trying to buy it anyway. Are you wondering about the forces that shaped these generations into the economic forces they are today?
Bow, bow, bow. So that was it for that video. My thoughts on that, nah, that's pretty much accurate. That's really accurate. I'm not gonna lie, but with me in general, it's like ever since I was young, like I already knew. Like it's like I had the intuition already. I already knew, yo, chase success. Feel me? Chase I never was like the type of guy like to want to like be like, you know what I mean, like just do like a regular job now. Like I always had like some type of big dream. You know what I mean? Like when I was younger, wanted to play ball. You know what I mean? And then like I never switched off that dream. Like even when I tried to switch off for a little bit, just because I was like I was getting older and stuff, I was like, nah, it's a way. All I gotta do is get in this way, then I'll get in. Feel me? And then now you see, feel me, it's chasing big content creation, YouTube, and all that. Feel me? Like me is like, feel me? I rather like knowing like I gave it my all, feel me? Like I don't like I don't know, feel me? I just rather me say at the end of the day I know I tried, I was persistent, I pulled out effort and I kept going, feel me? And then if it didn't go, then it didn't go. But it's gonna go, of course. Feel me? You always gotta have confidence. You always gotta shoot. And feel me? If you keep going, you keep grinding, you keep inputting every single day. Feel me? It's going go. Feel me? The time it don't go is when you're like you saying you want it, but you're not acting, or it's like mad stuff against you. Like so you're facing mad stuff, but all that stuff you can overcome. Feel me? It's just a matter of how you overcome it. But you already know the vibe, man. Hit that like button. Comment your thoughts, your opinions, your facts, whatever is on your mind. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't subscribed already. And turn on post notifications to keep updated with your boy. I see you guys in the next video. If you rock with me, I'm rocking with you.